This is a time-lapse video of me assembling the expanding table. So we start off with the first most important step, which is to remove the junk that's accumulated on top of it. And when you get it clear here, you can see the raising ramps, which are spread out. And you notice that 2 of them are in the exterior and 2 are closer in. That's so they don't interfere with each other because it rotates more than 90 degrees. It rotates about 120 degrees to expand. And what you see me doing over there is putting back together one of the sliders, one of the lower level sliders, and it's rotating because there's a Lazy Susan in the center, a 12-inch. And now I'm putting that on top and just getting that fastened down in the center. And you notice there was a depression in the center so the Lazy Susan can sit down below. And now I'm putting on the center star or the octopus or whatever you want to call it that holds the different arms, and that has to be in a very specific location relative to those raising ramps in order for things to raise up when it's at the most expanded point. And I'm getting that assembled in there. So theoretically, if everything is symmetrical, it could be rotated by 90 degrees, but it's not 100% symmetrical. So I'm getting that attached down, and I'm attaching it to the lower ones. You notice that those expanding arms are on top of that star and the other ones are below. That helps make the table's profile thin. This is the upper level, which I'm putting on there, and I'm lining up the linear bearings, which is what allows it to slide up and down. So those control it on the X and Y axis, but it's free in the Z. The Z is controlled by those rollers that raise it up, that ride on the ramps. And these are the upper level sliders, and we're putting those together. These go together a little bit easier than the lower ones because I thought ahead and put the fastening screws to come from the top versus the bottom ones where you have to come from underneath. So we get those in place. They're all attached down, and then now I'm going to attach those upper level sliders to the arms underneath that are going to push them out as you rotate it. And those are just, they're like 2 3/4 inches. They're 1/4 bolts. They reach down. I just tapped into those steel arms, which are an 1/8 inch thick. So I'm threading those. It also allows you to adjust them up and down a little bit, which is pretty handy. These pieces here are what helps support the main panels, the ones that are 90-degree wedges of the smaller circle. They're the big ones. These just give them a little more support side to side. They look kind of cool, the shape, but there isn't any special need for that. So we're getting those fastened down. And now what I'm doing is putting shims on. These are for the panels that raise up in the side. And these are something that you would normally figure out once you put the big panels on, and then you're adjusting the smaller ones so they rise up into the perfect position. I more or less knew where these needed to go if it was assembled correctly, which I'm actually going to put these panels in the wrong spot, and you'll see at the end, but that was my numbering system wasn't 100% perfect, so that was kind of a mistake here. But so normally you'd put the big panels on first, and then you'd put these ones on and adjust them so they rise into the correct position. And I'm getting these lined up. Since they were on the old mechanism underneath, they have a couple different mounting spots, so it's not 100% clear which one they need to go into. You have to play with it a little bit. And since each mounting point isn't 100% symmetrical, they really need to go on the exact one that they were drilled for in place. So with an engineered design, something a little more rigorous, that would be less of an issue, but we're a few steps away from that here. So we're getting these on. You can see right on that last one that I did, it barely clears that post from the rising thing on the right side there. So then I bring them in, and I notice that it's not going in all the way, so I'm going to goof with it a little bit here, expand it back out, and remove this one. What I needed to do there was run that screw, the mounting bolt that goes down to the arm, in a little further to lift it up. It was running against something on the bottom. So we get that sorted, and then we put it back on. And now it's clear to go in all the way. Doesn't line up perfect, because like I said, they're in the wrong spot, but that's alright. The concept is still the same here. So I'm wandering around trying to find which spot it goes to, and I decide on this one. Go ahead and get that fastened down. And then we bring out the 3 additional panels. The numbering confusion is because I've numbered them different ways for different things, and you try and scribble out one and it doesn't always end up being 100% clear. So having a universal numbering system would definitely be an advantage in the future. And if you notice on the edges of all these, I've cut grooves into them, and then I have little tongue pieces which I made that sit in there, and then it helps nestle into the one on the other side of it and keep the table all lined up when it comes together at the top. Those were a little bit of a pain. I cut them on a table saw with the dado blade, the grooves, and glued in the tongue pieces. And they're tapered, but even then it needs to be lined up quite close for it to all mesh together smoothly, which is why those shims need to be there. Also, your table and support mechanism need to be very, very accurate if you want to avoid having shims. So I think just sort of accept the need for shims and move on. It is made out of wood after all. So this here is the center star, and I'm trying to figure out which way it needs to go. It can go in a couple different ways, but only one of them is correct. And that center star was cut after I'd done everything else so that it meshed perfectly. And then I put it together, and you can see it doesn't match up perfectly, but the order is proper, so you get the idea.